Have you ever heard of a drip cake? Well, I'm going to show you how to make a drip card. Hi, I'm Linda Anderson from Linda Lou Creates, and I so enjoy sharing my passion for card making here on YouTube, Facebook, and my blog, lindaloucreates.com. Be sure and subscribe to my channel here on YouTube by clicking the little bell so you don't miss out on any new videos. So here's the card that I'm talking about that I created using the drip technique. This is the background that I'm going to demonstrate for you today. Here are a few more samples of the backgrounds I created just for fun. This one using the same colors as the baby card. So we have soft sea foam, so saffron, pool party on this one. Here's one where I used just one color. This is all mint macaron on this one. Now this one I decided to try the rainbow. So we have all 6 colors of the rainbow on this one background using the drip technique. Here's a card that I'm going to show you today how to make, demonstrating that technique. Monochromatic, using a lot of the Bermuda Bay, the Coastal Cabana, and Pool Party for the colors on this. So first up are the supplies that you're going to need to create this card. The card base is thick whisper white. It measures 11 by 4 1/4, and it is scored and folded at 5 1/2. Now I went ahead and put these 2 layers together. The bottom layer is Bermuda Bay, and it measures 5 1/4 by 4. The Coastal Cabana measures 5 by 3 3/4. And then you have your piece of watercolor paper. It's most important to use watercolor paper on this technique. Now this one measures 4 3/4 by 3 1/2. I used a piece of the watercolor paper that Stampin' Up! Sells. This paper, there's 10 in a pack, and it measures 5 by 7. So I cut it in half to get my 3 1/2 inch width. 3 1/2 inch width, and then I cut it off 1/4 of an inch from the top just to make it the measurements that I wanted then. So as far as the stamps go, I used a background stamp for this, handwritten. Now you can create your own background if you prefer. I went ahead and used this background stamp instead. And then my sentiment, the thinking of you, I did stamp it on some Pool Party, gave it a border on this one of Bermuda Bay. So just measure out your Pool Party to be the size of your sentiment. Now that sentiment came from this set called Seaside Notions. As far as any inks you're going to need, you will need Versamark because we are going to do some embossing. And like I said, I used the Bermuda Bay for my sentiment. Embellishments. I have some linen thread that I have used across the top here. And I already have that cut out, and I already tied a bow then for myself. The little embellishment here, the key comes from the Bird Ballad Trinkets. Adhesives, liquid glue. I like to use that, as well as snail and glue dots. Now for the drip technique itself, like I said, we're going to do some embossing. So let me just move some things off to the side here. So for that, you're going to need your embossing buddy. I used white embossing powder. Then, let me just pull in here some reinkers. I have the Bermuda Bay, Coastal Cabana, Pool Party. I've just put a couple drops in my little palette here. You can also use the lid of your actual ink pad. So if you lift the ink pad, open it up, you can actually put your drops in the water in there. I just have one of these little palettes and decided to use that instead. I have an aqua painter. It has in this tube, water is filled up here. you have your brush that you can then squeeze water out of this to keep the brush wet at all times for any of these watercolor techniques. And I have a spritzer. So let's get started with the technique. This is the fun part. So I'm just going to move this off to the side. Oh, one more very important product that you're going to make sure you have at your station at all times is a paper towel. Yeah, make sure you have one of these as well. Okay, so let me start here with the piece of watercolor paper. I'm going to use my embossing buddy on it. This helps to eliminate any of the oils, any static that might get on your paper from your hands. Now I have my stamp, that hand-written background stamp already mounted on a block, a clear block. You could get this, Stampin' Up! Has gone away from wood mount for stamping, or for their stamps rather, except for the backgrounds. So you could order this in wood and mount it to that. So up to you which version you would like. So let me ink that all up. Well, I'm gonna just kind of turn this on its side. It's easier for me to see this way. And just drop it down. Use some nice even pressure. You could use your Stamparatus for this even too. There's times where I haven't even used a block at all with my big background stamps like this. So however it works for you, do it that way. Okay, now you're not going to see it on your paper, on your watercolor paper. You're not going to see that stamping. I'm just going to slip a piece of scrap paper here underneath, because I'm going to sprinkle on my embossing powder and I'm going to let it catch it, because then I'm just going to funnel it right back in to the jar so there's no waste. You just have to be careful because of, and hold it by the edges because of the fact that it does go all the way to the edge. Okay, so let me just hit off some of the excess there, and I would then take this to my heat tool, heat it up, melt the powder to be able to then, which is what I've already done. I'm not going to take the time to do that because it does take a little bit of time for that. So let me just filter this back in, and I have one over here that has already been embossed. I don't know if you can see it. Let me kind of turn it around here. I don't know if you can see the shiny. Step number 2 on this, once you get done with the embossing, is pull out your spritzer. Now, this is why you need watercolor paper, because you're going to cover it with water. Regular cardstock would not be able to handle all this water we're going to add to it. I like to concentrate more water when I spray it at the top, but I do want to make sure that I get water all over my piece of cardstock. So I just kind of go a little heavy on the top and then back away when I spritz then for the rest of it. It's already kind of starting to pool, excuse me, in where that embossing is, and that's a good thing. So I'm going to start here now. I'm going to bring back in my re-inkers. Make sure I have my paper towel close by. All I'm going to do with my aqua painter is just dip it in. I'm not doing any extra squeezing or anything, but I do want the drips to kind of happen here. So really saturate your aqua painter. And all I'm going to do is just along the edge is just run a little bit of that re-inker and water across the edge of my cardstock and let it do its thing. See how it's dripping down there? I personally don't want it to drip all the way to the bottom. So that's what my paper towel is for, just to sop that up. You can put in as much, as little, you can move it around, create more drips. You can use that aqua painter to kind of help direct the drip where you want it to be. Using that paper towel to soak it up any extra water you may have. I'm going to move on to my next color, which is the Coastal Cabana. Same idea. I'm going to concentrate it now into the center, letting those colors overlap. That's fine. That's fine. We're all in the same color family, so it's not going to turn muddy or anything. So I'm just going to go ahead, and it's kind of fun to see where it's going to drip down. So add a little bit more of this. Whoa. Be quick to catch it if you don't want it to come all the way down to the bottom. Now I'm going to go into my darkest color. That's why I started with the light and then moved my way around so that I could then just easily come back. And now here is the Bermuda Bay. So what happens if it's not dripping for you? Then it just needs more water. So go ahead and spritz more water on it at any time. Catch those drips with your paper towel if you want to sop those up anywhere. Okay, I want a little bit more drip happening here, so I'll just put a little bit more, let it fall down. I feel like I've kind of painted right over my embossing, so all you got to do is hit it with your paper towel. It'll soak up any of that extra ink or excess ink that you might have. And if anything, if you want more water to create more drips, if you think it's too dark at any part, just add a little bit more water. So it's all how you want it to look. All right. So I actually want another little bit more drip. Sorry, I do want to drip it down here a little more. So let's see if I can get that to come down a little bit, but not too far. There we go. It's going a little crooked, so that's kind of fun there. So every background is going to be different. It's going to look different because of where your drips go. So it's kind of a haphazard thing. You don't have any control over it. You can try to control it, but don't. Let it just go. Sometimes I like to go in and fill in any spots where that ink might not have filled in with some of these, since they're words, just to highlight those up. Just hit my aqua painter around, and there. I'm fine. I'm happy with that. So what you'll do is get your heat tool and dry that. If you have time to set it off and let it dry, go ahead and do that. I always have to, I'm too quick. I have no patience, so I want it to be dry now. Because of that, because of my desire to have it dry now, I already made one up that is dry. So let me pull that one out. And here you go. So we have those fun little drips, everything just like we showed. Now you can see what it does to the paper with it being wet and the heat tool hitting it. It gets all warpy. So that's why I like and recommend a heavier adhesive. Tear and tape, liquid glue. Don't be afraid to really get it adhered down so that it lays flat for you. So I have my multi-purpose adhesive here, my liquid glue, and I am going to hit the outer edges, and then not be afraid to get lots and lots on the inside as well. Okay, let me pull in. These are my Coastal Cabana and Bermuda Bay layers, and let me fit this piece right in there as well. So really make sure that that gets adhered down. One thing I didn't mention, because I was doing my colors all so close together in the family, color family, to make sure that you do clean off your aqua painter in between colors. I didn't have to, because like I said, of the colors, but just give it a squeeze and then wipe it off with your paper towel and whatever you need to get those colors off of there. So you can see we're getting more and more color off. So I forgot to point that out earlier. So all right, so now let's just get going on the card. What I have now, I want to add my pieces of linen thread, instead of wrapping the thread around 3 times, I feel like I'm wasting some of it. So I just cut like 3 pieces that will go the width of my card. So here are the 3 pieces of linen thread. Let me just get them going here. See if they'll behave for me. And I will just fold it over to the back. And I just use Scotch tape. This happens to be double stick tape that I have at my desk. You can use regular Scotch tape. It doesn't have to be double stick, but that's what works for me to be able to hold that. So let me just get this real quick so that it's nice and okay. There we go. All right. And I'll pull this to the other side. And now we're ready to attach it to our card base. So let's get the snail going on this. Okay. And to the card base it goes. All right, like I said, here's my thinking of you. I'm going to kind of tuck it up and under, allowing room. Believe it or not, I don't know, everyone kind of knows that I love to use dimensionals, but I hope you're sitting down for this because I have not used any dimensionals on this card. Shock, I know. So here we go. Just at a bit of an angle so you can still read it good. I have my bow that I have made, and I have my little trinket as well, my little key. So let me pull in some glue dots. There is a right and a wrong side to this key. The first time I made my card, or first time I used this key trinket, I put it backwards. So that's how, that's why I'm telling you, don't do what I do when it comes to certain things. So yeah, don't put your key on upside down. Next will be now a glue dot for my bow. I will just go ahead and push the bow onto there. Now obviously it's bigger than the bow itself, or the knot, so just kind of roll it up on itself. All right, and I'm gonna just put that right in place also. And there we go. There's my card using the drip technique. I really hope you enjoyed this. I hope you also give this a try. And if you do, please don't hesitate to let me know. Put it in the comments that you made one, and give me a link so I can come and see what you've done. I would love to see how this has inspired you to create something. So thank you again. Be sure and subscribe, clicking on the little bell, and I will have more information posted on my blog about this with all the measurements and supplies. And I thank you again for joining me. My blog is Linda Lou Creates, and I'm Linda Anderson saying have a great day. Bye now.